Hey, how you doing? I been using this old 3010 and this very fine, wonderful example of an old New Holland hay bind to cut a little bit of foxtails down till I get my tank cleaned in my 4030. I'm getting ready to go out and do some tidding. That means I got to dig out the 620 out from under here behind the old 50. But before I do, this being a Sunday and all, figured I would have a word with you. Anyhow, probably get this up a little bit later in the day than I normally do. Sorry about that. But I was thinking, for some reason or other, it come to my mind, verse in 1 Corinthians. 1 Corinthians 27. Actually, let's go back. Start at 26. For ye see your calling, brethren, how that not many wise men after the flesh, not many mighty, not many noble are called. But God hath chosen the foolish things of the world to confound the wise, and God hath chosen the weak things of the world to confound the things which are mighty. Always loved them verses. Always did. I always loved to imagine that's why I was doing well at the tractor pulls was, God hath chosen the foolish things of the world to confound the wise, and the weak things to confound the mighty. God's blessed me with a lot of different talents, and sometimes I wonder if humility is one of them. Got to not take yourself too seriously. But anyhow, back to the subject. I was thinking that if some of you had it in your head that maybe God doesn't have any use for me, I've sinned too much, I've done too many bad things, He would never forgive me for this or that, things that I've done. People don't even know some of the horrible things I've done. God won't forgive me for that. Well, that's not so. He will. Look, go back in the Bible. There's plenty of examples in the Bible, imperfect people that God used in a great way. Let's look at Moses. Moses himself, Moses who led the Israelites out from Egypt, when he spoke to God at the burning bush, he told God he couldn't do it. He didn't know how to speak well enough, and God just got disgusted with it. It was, okay, well, you get your brother Aaron to talk for you then, but you're going to do it. Moses, not many people remember, Moses had committed murder before he left Egypt and fled, before he returned to free the Egyptians. So Moses, he was a murderer, and he told God he couldn't do it. You got King David. King David, called a man after God's own heart. King David, he was a peeping Tom, and and watching Bathsheba washing herself during the evening, and committed adultery, and then he committed murder to try to cover up his sin. God was able to use him mightily. I don't think too many of you committed murder, but God can forgive that, and He'd accept you. And there are others too. I mean, there's Queen Esther. She was a mighty good-looking woman. Because part of the role she played was necessary for her to be very beautiful. I'm sure she was one of the top 10 most beautiful women that ever lived. Even then, she was hesitant to do the work. She didn't think she was up to it. She was scared to go speak to the king. She was afraid for her own life. Didn't want to speak to the king about this edict that evil guy Haman had put out to destroy the Jews, her people. Um, so even though she was very beautiful, she was hesitant to do the work that God had for her. So she was not confident in that area. And then the disciples, look at them. I mean, they weren't really highly educated, powerful men. They were watermen, fishermen, guys, salt of the earth guys, work with their hands. God doesn't just pick out the best. God says not many of the what we would call the cream of the crop of society are chosen or called. Um, if you feel like, number one, if you feel like God is calling you to accept Him, accept Jesus as your Savior, you shouldn't ignore that. I mean, don't be doubting and thinking that you're not good enough, that you've sinned more than God can forgive, because that's not so. And also, if you are a believer and you feel like God has been kind of nudging you to speak up or to do something for Him, and you think you're not able to do it, don't ignore that either. God uses broken people. God uses imperfect people. I mean, He's using me, and I'm very imperfect. God can use you. Don't hesitate. If you feel God calling you, this might be the last time He's going to call you. Don't ignore Him. You're able to be in His family. So don't. If you feel God tugging on you, get yourself where you can say, hey, here I am, Lord. What would you have me do? Trust in Him. Put your faith in Him. Trust that He can use you to do great things, and go and do it. All right, I don't know. I just felt like that's what I was supposed to say today. So I'll get him up there later on, but I gotta. They always say make hay while the sun shines. Sun is shining. I gotta dig this thing out and get some tidding done. So I'll catch you later. See you.